Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. We are continuing our pretty intense psychological journey through Oliver's album, A Night on the Earth. And if you thought maybe the narrative arc had found some kind of stability, well, track 8 is here to violently prove you wrong. We are facing a major tonal and, I think, psychological reckoning today.
Oh, absolutely. It's a crucial pivot point. We really do have to rewind just briefly to set the scene for you, the listener. Where we left off track 7, Tell Me Why, the narrator was just stuck, completely stuck in this high-intensity emotional deadlock.
Right. He'd had that big moment in track 6, You Lost My Love, that decisive break. We called it functional clarity, right? Based on a specific betrayal.
Exactly. He was angry, justified, he made the break. It felt final, intellectually.
Yeah, the intellectual break. But then, boom, track 7, the emotional floor just falls out.
Completely. All that assertion, all that clarity, it just collapsed into pure vulnerability. He stopped, owning his own closure and started demanding hers, begging her, really, to find the you I knew.
It was devastating, that state of suspended animation we talked about, totally paralyzed, totally tethered to her.
Yeah, his well-being was completely outsourced. He was just waiting for her to magically fix everything, revert back to some idealized past version of herself. So that decisive action totally undermined by this paralyzing emotional dependence.
So how do you break a deadlock like that? A situation where you're just stuck?
Well, sometimes you have to change the battlefield entirely. That's exactly what happens here.
Which brings us to track 8, Life and Lies. Oliver makes an immediate, really sharp pivot. He literally strips away the sonic armor, doesn't he? The loud, amplified rock sound of tracks 6 and 7, gone.
Yeah, the music itself is the first huge clue. The strategy shifts from, external confrontation to internal assessment. This track is labeled a piano ballad, written back in 1997, and the sources describe the sound as intentionally gentle. It's piano-led, maybe drawing comparisons to Paul Simon's style, that kind of intimate, reflective feel.
A Paul Simon-esque gentle ballad, carrying the weight of this massive betrayal and confusion. That shift from the electric guitars and the shouting to this quiet, stripped-down setting, it just screams deliberate retreat, doesn't it? A move inwards.
It has to be deliberate. When the volume drops, both the listener and, crucially, the narrator are kind of forced to listen to that quieter, maybe more insidious internal voice.
No more shouting.
Exactly. The environment becomes intimate, almost vulnerable. And here's the key thing, I think. Unlike those roaring anthems or the desperate pleas we heard earlier, the emotional assertion here, the refrain, it does not sound powerful. That's what the sources say.
Doesn't sound powerful.
No. In fact, the whole song feels like a quiet, almost resigned conversation. Maybe an internal monologue that's finally being voiced, but softly.
That resignation, that quietness, it almost makes the message feel even heavier, more chilling. We're not dealing with loud oaths or demands anymore. It feels more like a quiet confession of the soul.
Yeah. So our mission today, then, is to explore what actually happens in this quiet conversational space. Does stripping away that loud rock exterior finally force the narrator to gain some kind of, true clarity?
And if he does, is that clarity liberating? Or is it just devastating? Does he confront the deception in the relationship? Or maybe, more painfully, does he start to see the cyclical nature of deception itself, maybe even his own part in it?
That's the question. And the song, well, it doesn't waste any time getting there. The clarity he finds right in the first stanza, it's immediately devastating.
Yeah.
But crucially, it seems rooted in this idea of mutual deception.
Okay, let's get into part 1. The core conflict, mutual deception, and existential pain. Stanza 1.
Yeah, the song opens with, I think, one of the most intellectually honest and brutal statements on the entire album. It immediately sets up a relationship founded not just on her deception, but on this fundamental mutual unfamiliarity. It is hard to love a woman when she doesn't know the man who is taking her to bed night after night.
Whoa, wait a minute. Okay, that shifts the focus, doesn't it? Big time. From track 7, where he was demanding she reveal her true self, her real self. Now he's saying the problem is two-sided. She doesn't know him.
Exactly.
So is he saying the man taking her to bed is a performance, a facade, a version of himself he puts on to keep the connection going, or maybe to keep his own illusion alive?
It really moves the whole dialogue, doesn't it? From just, you lied to me, to something more like, we're both lying maybe to sustain this thing.
Yeah.
If the woman he loves doesn't even know the real him, then the entire relationship is kind of existing in this state of mutual functional deception. It's a lie because the people in it are fragmented or hidden.
That says so much about the narrator's own state, doesn't it? We know from earlier tracks he struggles with vulnerability, with showing weakness. Is he kind of admitting here that to keep the relationship going, he had to wear some kind of armor? Confidence, strength, something that wasn't totally real?
Could be.
And if that's true, then she's not just a mystery to him. He's fundamentally a stranger to her, too.
That's the devastating realization you get in that quiet space, I think.
Right.
When the rock armor comes off, he maybe has to admit his own role in the lack of authenticity. And this lack of genuine connection, this fundamental relationship lie, it immediately hits his internal state. Right after that observation, he looks inward. It is hard to go sleep when pain and anger run so deep inside your heart and mind and soul.
Wow. So the intensity hasn't actually gone away, has it? Despite the quiet music, the internal landscape is still violent. That pain and anger is still deeply rooted. And notice how specific: heart, mind, and soul.
Yeah, it's not just one thing. It's systemic. Body, intellect, spirit. The damage feels total, comprehensive.
Like a complete infection, as you said.
Exactly. And the consequence of that deep, persistent emotional damage, that's where we get the ultimate collapse of his reality. This is the heavy philosophical punch of this opening section. And life is a lie.
Okay, this is where we cross a really crucial line. We're not just talking about heartbreak anymore, or even just relationship betrayal. Back in track 1, he was upset about specific lies, I heard you say, right? Verbal stuff.
Specific actions.
But now, in track 8, that specific trauma seems to have generalized. It's blown up into this complete philosophical, almost existential conclusion. Life itself is inherently false.
That's it. That's the move from specific trauma to something approaching nihilism. The failure of this one intimate relationship has somehow been extrapolated to define the entire human condition for him in this moment. If love, which is supposed to be the antidote to isolation, is itself based on lies, well, then what foundation does anything have? He's generalizing his specific pain into a whole worldview.
And we have that external context from the sources, right, that confirms the root of this particular lie. This song is explicitly about yearning for a woman who is, quote, not single, but rather trapped in a relationship filled with lies.
Right. That external constraint, her unavailability, her being committed somewhere else, that's the barrier that kind of necessitates the lie in their connection. They can have intimacy, they can have connection, but they can't have an honest future, not a public one anyway. So therefore, everything they do together, even loving each other, feels fundamentally fraudulent.
That context just makes that opening statement even more heartbreaking. She's close, physically, emotionally maybe, but forbidden. And the only way they can even be close is by playing this game where reality gets suspended. If their whole foundation is built on this shadow reality, then yeah, the conclusion, life is a lie, starts to feel chillingly, tragically logical from his perspective.
It pretty much defines their situation as doomed from the start, doesn't it? And, okay, having hit that existential rock bottom, what does he do? He immediately tries to escape, not just the situation, but like earthly reality itself.
Right, which takes us into part 2, fantasy, frustration, and the game, the bridge and refrain. So faced with this crushing idea that his whole existence is basically fake, the narrator attempts this huge mental escape in the bridge. He's trying to get off the planet entirely, a cosmic reset.
Yeah, he says, all these days I am still hoping that I'll find myself walking in some other constellation of the sky. It's such a desperate poetic image, isn't it? He doesn't just want a new town or a new life. He wants a completely different cosmic order, a place where the rules of earthbound lies and messy relationships just don't apply. It's the ultimate retreat.
But then, just as quickly, that sort of high-minded cosmic dream slams right back down to earth, to desperate, almost violent fantasy. The next line is pure, forced action. That I'll burn this world around me, kiss your lips, and make you love me.
Yeah. Despite the quiet, gentle music surrounding it, that line is just raw, undiluted desperation. It's this fantasy of absolute control. Violently reshape reality, burn this world, and then force the emotional response, make you love me.
It feels like the last gasp of that angry, assertive guy from track 6, you know? But now it's trapped inside this quiet song, relegated entirely to an impossible fantasy.
The ego trying to grab back control through some kind of magnificent, impossible destruction.
Yeah.
And the goal of all this fantasy, the reason for burning the world, it's stated right there, to stop this game we play, the game of life and lies.
So he names it. He explicitly identifies the relationship and their whole way of avoiding reality as a performance, a game, a cycle of deception fueled by avoidance.
Exactly. So the stakes are clear.
Yeah.
End the deception, end the game.
Yeah.
But what happens immediately after this big dramatic fantasy, we get the refrain, and it completely undercuts that aggressive fantasy with this uh, conversational, perpetually postponed assertion.
Ah, yes. This is maybe the psychological core of the track,
Right.
right? The delivery is so gentle, almost a whisper of potential control. And I said sometime. I said baby sometime. I said maybe next time we're going to do this thing my way.
The key word there is deferral. He articulates the desire for control. We're going to do this thing my way, but he pushes it off, always to some vague sometime or hypothetical maybe next time. He can say what he wants, but he seems utterly incapable of making it happen now.
And the soft piano, the ballad feel, it just perfectly reinforces that passivity, doesn't it? If he really wanted to do this thing my way, he wouldn't be asking about maybe next time. He'd act now. This constant pushing it off, it suggests a really deep fear underneath, maybe, fear of finality. If he forces the issue, if he demands his way and she says no, well, the game ends and he loses her completely.
Right, so maybe he'd rather live in the lie, keep the illusion of future possibility alive, than risk that absolute closure.
Wow. Okay, so the deferral means the game of life and lies just keeps going, unabated. His desire keeps him talking, keeps him waiting for that mythical next time.
And that waiting, that hope for next time, it's fueled by his lingering confusion and desire, which he admits right after that.
He confronts her transformation, the deception. I said, baby, I don't know who you are anymore. He sees it, right? He acknowledges the reality that she's become a stranger, maybe the source of the lie.
But
But then that intellectual clarity gets completely sabotaged by the very next line. Who's this girl that I want in many ways?
And that is the essential conflict of the album, right there in 2 lines. The cold, analytical knowledge, she's deceptive, she's changed. I don't know her, totally defeated by the visceral, relentless persistence of his desire. He admits he still wants this fragmented, deceptive stranger in many ways.
Which is why the deadlock from track 7 is still active. He can't reconcile the cold reality of her actions or their situation with the warmth of his own longing. That prevents any clean break.
Exactly. He's caught in this loop. He sees the lie, he names the game, but he kind of rewards the other player by sticking around, by continuing to want her, and by constantly deferring his own move to take control. So the soft piano here, it isn't really peace, is it? It's more like the soundtrack to his emotional paralysis.
Okay, let's move to the next part. Part 3. Forbidden proximity and internal isolation. Stanza 2.
Right. So that tension, knowing the lie but still feeling the desire, it gets amplified in the second stanza. Here, the narrator really zooms in on the specific psychological agony of their physical situation.
He names the torture of it, being emotionally and maybe physically close to someone who is just structurally unavailable. It's hard to have these feelings when you're close but still forbidden.
Yeah, her physical proximity makes the yearning so much worse. She's right there, maybe within arm's reach, available for these moments of intimacy, but totally unavailable for any kind of permanence or legitimate future. That external constraint, her being trapped in her own relationship filled with lies, it turns her into this forbidden fruit. And that's way more torturous, arguably, than physical distance because it dangles the possibility of fulfillment right in front of him, only to snatch it away when reality intrudes.
So, since reality only offers this painful proximity without possession, the narrator does what he often does. He retreats back to the only place where the relationship can be fully realized, his subconscious. Every night, I dream you're sleeping in my arms.
Mm-hmm. And this reliance on dreams, it's
Yeah.
such a consistent coping mechanism for him throughout the album, isn't it? Takes us right back to track 1, Yes, I Know, where waking up was the hardest part because reality just couldn't compete with the dream. The dream offers this safe, controlled space where the relationship is stable, honest, even if that validation is just, self-generated fiction.
But then the focus shifts again, doesn't it? From that general yearning in the dream to this really intense, focused desire. It confirms his passion hasn't actually faded at all. He's burning for your touch now and your kisses after midnight when the moon is shining only in your eyes.
Yeah, those are such specific, incredibly intimate details, the touch, the midnight kisses, things that maybe only happen in secret when the rest of the world is asleep, when the physical reality of their connection can momentarily blot out the lie of their overall situation. And the passion is so intense, it's focused purely on her. It isolates her in the imagery. The moon shines only in her eyes.
It paints this picture of really intense romantic focus, which stands in such stark contrast to the cynical conclusion that life is a lie. The conflict in this stanza is just. It's laid bare, isn't it? The head has accepted nihilism, but the body, the heart, they're still completely devoted, still burning, still demanding a connection that ironically, necessitates the very lie he
The
hates.
passion is the engine, right? It keeps the cycle spinning. It overrides his rational existential understanding of how messed up the situation is. He knows it's a game of life and lies, but he wants that intimacy too damn badly to stop playing.
Okay, wow. Which leads us into the third stanza, part 4. Critiquing the cycle of passive hope. And this feels different.
It is. This stanza is arguably the most insightful and maybe the most deeply ironic moment of the whole track, because the narrator, having just confessed his own internal paralysis, his own deferral, and the mutual deception of their relationship, he now shifts his gaze outward, and he starts criticizing the partner for being caught in the exact same psychological trap he's in.
Right. He directs the critique right at her passive hope. Still, you're going to keep on living, hoping he will hear you screaming, waiting for a miracle to change your life. He's condemning her for relying on external forces, hoping her current partner finally gets it, or waiting for some literal miracle instead of taking decisive action herself to get out of the relationship she's supposedly trapped in.
And this is where the irony
Yeah.
it becomes almost unbearable, doesn't it? He is actively condemning the psychology of waiting, waiting for someone else to fix it, waiting for the next time to make a move. The very thing that has defined his own behavior through so much of this album.
Absolutely. He spent track 2 waiting for that late train, waiting for an external sign. Track 7, he was demanding she fix herself so he could feel better. Now, suddenly, he recognizes and condemns this psychological trap, this reliance on passive hope, but he projects it entirely onto her.
It's a classic defense mechanism, isn't it? By pointing out her passive hope and condemning it, he creates this temporary distance from his own paralysis. It lets him feel maybe clearer or stronger for a moment, even though his own sometime, maybe next time approach is the very definition of deferred action, of waiting.
He's basically yelling at her for waiting for a miracle while he's still kind of hoping for a different constellation to magically appear and save him.
Exactly. And this condemnation comes with this really cynical prediction of futility. Thinking how tomorrow will be better, baby, but I don't think you'll ever stop this game I simply call the life and lies.
Ouch. That's a harsh conclusion. He's saying her hope, her belief that tomorrow might be better even without her taking action, is the very thing that keeps the lie going. It anchors her to it. If she stopped hoping for that miracle, maybe she'd be forced to act. But because she believes things might just passively improve, the game continues. Indefinitely, in his view.
And it solidifies his own cynical worldview. Remember that source material confirmation. Oliver is looking for love elsewhere, but the choices are not ideal, and he kind of wonders if all relationships are based on lies.
Right. So the specific trauma of this forbidden, deceptive relationship has fully metastasized. It's become a universal belief system for him now. If every relationship he sees or tries to have is riddled with this same kind of functional deception, well, then that nihilistic belief that life is a lie gets confirmed. It's not just his personal tragedy anymore, it's the universal condition. There's just no escaping deception in love or in life.
And this devastating universal cynicism is delivered in that final, quiet accusation of the refrain. That quiet conversational tone just makes the existential conclusion feel utterly resigned. It's the final, chilling summary. Life and lies, ain't that what it's all about? Ain't that everything I ever got from you so far?
Yeah, it's not a shout. It's like a cold, quiet accounting, a bottom line. All the fury, all the pain, all the love he poured into this, it boils down to one thing. Deception. That's all he got back. And the gentle music just underscores it. It's the sound of quiet, absolute defeat, resignation backed by this newfound cynical knowledge that, well, this is just how the world works.
So let's try to sum up track 8. Life and Lies really functions as this crucial internal reckoning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Forced by the intimacy of the piano ballad setting. But the clarity he finds is just profoundly dark.
Yeah, it's not the clarity of freedom. It's the clarity of universal despair. He's concluded that all of life, defined by these cycles of passive hope and mutually sustained lies, is fundamentally untruthful.
He's gone from needing one specific person to change back in track 7 to deciding that the entire structure of human connection is inherently broken, riddled with untruths. That's a complete, total philosophical failure of hope, isn't it? He's traded personal pain for existential pain.
And this state, this universal emotional and existential despair, it feels like a critical new rock bottom for the album. It's different from the loneliness and abandonment of track 4 because this feels rooted in like cynical knowledge. He thinks he's seen behind the curtain and decided the whole show is a fraud and we're all complicit.
Which leaves us, and you the listener, with a really essential, provocative question, I think. The narrator has concluded that absolute cynicism, the conviction that life is a lie, is the truth. So is this conclusion a form of, like, necessary psychological armor? A protective layer that finally shields him from the chaos of betrayal and passion?
Or is it the ultimate sign of existential defeat? A surrender to nihilism that basically locks him out permanently from any possibility of real, honest connection in the future.
Because if everything is a lie, then ultimately nothing matters,
Mhm.
and no action is really worthwhile. That level of despair, it feels psychologically unsustainable for a whole life or even just for the rest of an album. The human spirit, even when it's deeply wounded, tends to fight back, tends to fight for survival, even if it's just the raw, fundamental act of staying alive.
Right. That tension between cynicism as self-protection and cynicism as total defeat. Something has to give. The album just can't stay in this quiet, resigned state of universal falsehood. Something needs to shatter the piano ballad's bleak intimacy.
And indeed, something does. We get another dramatic sonic and thematic shift coming right up. It signals, I think, a fundamental rejection of this kind of internalized defeat.
Okay, so where are we heading next?
We are leaving the desolate quiet of life and lies.
And heading straight into track 9, I Don't Want to Die Tonight?
And notice the genre shift again. Huge change. We move from that sophisticated piano ballad to acoustic guitar country, completely different sonic environment. The quiet desperation is replaced by something, maybe more grounded, more raw.
Acoustic guitar country. Wow. Okay, so next time we'll explore how that radical shift in style relates to this profound existential crisis he's reached. And maybe whether focusing on just immediate, fundamental survival, the literal desire not to die, is the only way he can escape this crushing generalization that life is a lie.
Is survival the only truth left? That's what we'll start digging into.
Sounds fascinating. We will be digging into that profound existential turn next time. Until then, keep digging.